Welcome back to part two. I hope you enjoyed the commercial break there. Don't forget, if you need to join a gym in Rotherham, join Ziggy's at Masborough.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for the drinks, Ziggy and Scott Brunt. Thank you very much. I'm piling weight. I'll be as big as you, Ziggy, soon. Right. So basically, we were talking there about Conor Ben. Do they even care about anything else except money at the moment? That lot.
Care about two things: money and themselves.
Because I want to see a British title fight from him for Conor Ben. I want to see him in with that Echo guy. Is it not Echo guy? What's he called? Chris Conger. I want to see with him, Chris Conger. I think he's.
Well, that's what I want to see Conor Ben do, and that's what we wanted to see him do. Exactly what we just talked about his dad doing. He fought Michael Watson in a British and Commonwealth fight. That tent at Finsbury, those guys weren't earning massive money. Cracking 6-rounder, and that was about proving you're the best in your own country before you move on to world level. So learn from your father. That's what you should have done.
Frank Warren made a good point yesterday, didn't he? Saying that they're not even the best in the weight divisions in the UK.
Well, they're not, are they? And that's exactly the point. And I suppose that's the irony, but they're the most famous, aren't they?
Okay. We'll move on from them now then. Peter Fury's every now and then he lets a blast out, doesn't he? You know, I don't know if it's a bit of frustration with boxing at times. He's used to people when you work with people, so look, whatever you say you're going to do, you must do that. You know what I mean? You say, yeah, okay, right, I'm going to do this, right, do it then. Don't say you're going to do it and not do it. I can imagine people in boxing industry, and I like to think I know Peter well, saying to him or saying this is going to happen and it not happening. You see how I got frustrated a little bit with Dennis sometimes. He'd say, oh, don't be kicking off. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing that. And I'd go, well, you've said it, Ron. So if it don't happen, you see where I'm coming from. So do you think there's a bit of that? You think he's not used to being messed about, are they? Because they've been messed about royally, haven't they?
Absolutely. So Peter feels exactly like I do. First of all, he's a more established and a better coach than I am. He's also got a wider platform. And he's somebody who's just hung in the game a lot longer. I did 30 years amateur and pro as a coach, but he feels like I do. The things he says, like the comment he said about some of those guys in the top 10 not being that good. I feel exactly like that. I said about Deontay Wilder, who's a massive puncher. I thought Deontay Wilder technically was one of the worst fighters I've ever seen at any kind of level. It was horrendous. And there's other guys in there. I've mentioned Dillian White. You know, I've talked about Dillian White before. I've said in old money, he's kind of a British title contender, fringe European, absolute best. And it's a popularity contest. So I think what you've got here is, and I'm always open about Hughie Fury. You got Hughie Fury, who I would think is probably, realistically, he might be the 7th or 8th best heavyweight in the world, somewhere along them lines. But when you're at that level, and he does have good skills, as Hughie Fury, he's paid his dues, he went in at the deep end quite early on. And he can't seem to get a fight for love nor money. And the reality is, it's just a popularity contest and it's not about skills and ability. So if I were Peter Fury, he's banging his head against a brick wall. It's different with Savannah Marshall because she's a brilliant fighter. She's got this massive fight coming up, but the entry level is lower. So you get fast tracked, you know, currently in women's boxing, and that's great for her. But in terms of Hughie, what does that guy have to do? Not to get a world title shot, to get a meaningful fight. I think that's what Peter wants. He wants a meaningful fight where he can showcase his skills and it can get him at least in a position where he can fight for a world title. He can't get the meaningful fight because he's part of the who needs in club, isn't he? He's a high risk, low reward type of fighter.
Hard to get to set about, you know, in ring, I think.
He's got a lot of ring craft, and he's also shown a really solid chin, hasn't he? So he's one of those fighters who's not a massive puncher. If he hits you, he's going to hurt you. But he's tough. You know, he's had some bad cuts in the past. He doesn't react badly to it. You know, he kind of gets on with the job. And as I've said, if you're going to beat Hughie Fury, and I've been honest, and I think he's perhaps the 6th or 7th or 8th best fighter in the world right now. But if you're going to beat him, you've got a long, hard night. And that is the thing. And, you know, we look at Derek Chisora. Would Derek Chisora...
I was just about to say.
Yeah, right.
Had a lot of chances, hasn't he?
And he's popular. He throws tables upside down. And Chisora this week's been great, actually. I've been watching him in the bits and bobs I have managed to catch. Chisora's good fun. You know, he's charismatic, and the fans absolutely love Derek Chisora. But if one guy can get so many chances, doesn't Hughie Fury at least deserve his chance now? I mean, how long can you keep him waiting?
You feel that's why his dad's come out and said what he said, or do you feel like he just thinks that he's going to say it anyway because it's true?
You want me to be honest? I think Peter Fury has basically just said over the course of 2 or 3 interviews, there's a lot of massively lesser talented fighters getting big opportunity, but there's also a lot of wankers in boxing, and there really are. There's some talentless coaches and not so talented fighters and dickheads around the sport who hang around the sport. And I think it's probably, and I'm not speaking for you, Peter, I think it's probably the absolute opposite of what he thinks is a good guy, a stand-up guy. So I think he's in a sport that he hates being in, but he has to be in because he knows if his son and Savannah do get their opportunities, they're going to prove themselves a good fighter. But I bet Peter Fury doesn't hang around much longer.
You know what I think? I think why they don't get chances, they're not in the clique. They're not hanging around everybody's arse at after parties and presses rubbing up to people. I see a lot of that on here. Oh God, look at so and so and so and so. They're practically kissing. See it.
Well, I think, yeah, one of the frustrating things for me, I mean, Peter's, I don't even know if he's outspoken or he just says what other people think, but he doesn't do it in a kind of belligerent, nasty way. I think he's a direct bloke, isn't he? If I was chatting to Peter Fury now, I don't know him, and if I said something that he thought was bollocks, he'd probably say that's bollocks. It just said, Jules, you're talking rubbish, don't be silly. But I just think he speaks what he says, what's true. He says what everybody's thinking. But one of the things that frustrates me is a couple of
John does as well, though, doesn't he? It's a good quality to have that, isn't it?
It is, yeah. John calls it out. It absolutely is a good quality to have. I'm a bit more diplomatic, but I had a mate for a long, long time who was just the same. And he used to have this line, did my mate. He was a tough kid, you know. And he had this line, and if someone was talking bollocks, he'd just say, "What are you lying for?" He'd just call them out like that, and you'd kind of go awkward and just put your look down, and you'd go, "But what are you lying for?" And he just used to call people out. And either you get to a stage in life where you get older, you don't care what you say, or what you say is not going to have a direct impact on your income or how you live or something. I mean, I can't speak my mind because, you know, it doesn't make me a yes man. I've got a certain way I have to behave, as you know, because of the corporation I work for, and there's a certain way I have to behave. But Peter Fury doesn't have to do. He doesn't answer to anybody. One of the frustrating things for me is it's the questioning. So when people are interviewing Peter Fury and he has his little moments where he gets things off his chest, if I was interviewing him, I'd probably dig a little bit deeper and be more specific. But they don't say, "What do you mean it's a cringe sport? Give me some examples," because he probably would do. Because they're shitting themselves, because deep down, they know that Peter Fury is not just talking about the boxers and the trainers and the promoters. He's also talking about a lot of the media, the pundits and the PR and the media. He's talking about everybody. And that's why they're not pushing him. And they're not, you know, if someone said to me, boxing's a fucking cringe sport, full of arseholes, etc., whatever, I'm not going to misquote you, I'd be like, well, explain. I'm interested in that, actually, because that's quite a fascinating thing. But
they know it's true, though, don't they, the media?
Yeah, they know it's true, and it's like...
They know he's telling the truth.
Oh, he's 100% telling the truth, you know. Been in this game a long time. I mean, there's certain people in the border control. You couldn't meet more pompous people if you tried. It's like, it's just horrendous. It's like an old school guard. It's like awful. And it's what he's saying is true. And ultimately, Peter Fury speaks the truth. Is that hurting his fighters? No, because they're not getting the opportunities anyway, are they? Hughie Fury is a real quiet guy, isn't he? He's a humble guy. He's a quiet guy.
He doesn't shout his mouth off, Savannah.
No, he doesn't shout his mouth off. So he's
People
never
don't
going
have
to.
people like that around him.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not going to get his opportunity until he gets his opportunity anyway, is he? And I think it's such a shame. It's not, and I go back to my earlier point, it doesn't matter if I think he's good enough or not to win a world title. I didn't think Dillian White was good enough to win a world title. I didn't think, Chisora was good enough to beat Klitschko. It doesn't matter. They get their opportunities. Give the guys opportunity. Look at Deontay Wilder. Look at some of the absolute bums he defended his belt against. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I'm trying to, it's frustration maybe. But look at some of the guys who Wilder beat in his early reign of his WBC reign. Absolute jokers. Are you telling me that Hughie Fury doesn't deserve a shot more than those guys? Not a chance.
Yeah.
Rubbish.
Yeah. Okay. Simon Jordan. He's not happy with Eddie and that Saudi prince guy all swapping spitting showers and all that. He's had his plenty to say, but they don't get on anyway. There's a bit of a clash there, isn't there, with Jordan? And Jordan's a working class people, and Eddie Hearn's a bit of an elitist in how he behaves and that. There's a clash, and obviously you can see it close up, can't you?
Well, Simon Jordan's a very successful man, but he's also, as you've just said, he's a down-to-earth guy. And I don't think he says things for effect. I think he says what he believes to be true. And I think he believes he's also representing a lot of people with his views. And I like him, actually. I've said before, and you've said this, he's the kind of guy I'd have running the board of control because he's no nonsense, but I think he's got integrity. And I think integrity is something what's massively lacking in boxing. So in terms of the Saudis, I mean, I sent you a link this week about because obviously I'm close to Leeds, about the young Leeds student who's just been doing some human rights protesting previously on social media. She's gone to Saudi Arabia last year on holiday. She's been banged up and she's going to do 30 or 40 years for campaigning for human rights.
For a tweet, isn't it? Tweeted on Twitter.
Tweet, social media tweet. This young girl is going to have her life absolutely ruined. No one will survive.
Twitter have done nothing about it, have they? Said no, have they?
Nobody will do nothing about it. And all these people are over there shaking hands with the sheikhs and the regime. And this is a country, honestly, this is a country that has got a despicable record for crimes against human rights. And everybody's over there taking the money. And there'll be people sleeping, rough 100 yards away from where these rich guys are all all these people, all these boxing pundits are over there enjoying themselves and having fun and drinking expensive champagne. The border control will be there getting their expenses paid. And this is a country, as I've said, what's got a disgraceful record against human rights. But who cares, mate? Because everybody's making money, eh?
Yeah, and speaking of money, we're getting close to the fight now. I can explain this one. Well, it's on telly now. Usyk. Have a look what he's weighing. He's 16 stone or something.
15-11.
15-11.
Yeah.
Richard, you've got it wrong. He's not 16. 15-11. So that's what? £3, 221, is it? Yeah.
I think he's pretty much the same weight as he was last time, give or take a bag of sweets.
So all that about him being heavy and all this, we're all just matchroom fake news, wasn't it, again?
I think it was either matchroom fake news or Usyk's team have perpetrated that to try and amend or influence the game plan of Joshua, or just to throw him off the guard.
Well, Joshua looks to me like he's stumped. He looked frightened to death in the presence of him, didn't he? And he's juggling balls and singing. Other guy in some costume, but he looks like he's got some. Look, he looks a dick in that outfit he had on. Did you see it?
Yeah, I mean,
that's like, well, what did Dick Whittington or something?
I don't know what I had on, to be honest. The biggest story for me this week, and it's only been touched on today. So I've got a mate I chat to all the time. I've told you we talk about stuff, and we always have a bit of a joke. And we, like you pick up on stuff before it becomes, mainstream news. So it was clear to me that Robert Garcia was never going to be the head coach. They brought him in for whatever reasons, and there's 4 reasons why. I said to you a few weeks ago, I said, I'm not 100% convinced on the pick yet. And I said, let me just see fight week and see a few things, how it flushes out before I kind of, nail my colours to the flag and I decide who I think is going to win the fight. So coaches have a big influence. So I'd like to think they have some influence on a fight. Now, when there was the public workout this week, a mate of mine sent me a message and just said, Angel's doing the pads. Robert Garcia's just kind of stood in the ring awkwardly shouting a few instructions. And he says the pads didn't look great. They looked kind of the rhythm and the timing. I know they're just moving around and tickling, but the rhythm and the timing wasn't right. But what I thought was, just been on holiday. When I came back off holiday, I belatedly watched the Fraser Clark fight. And Fraser Clark was sort of saying, I've not had my coach in my corner. And, Angel Hernandez, who he's been working with, is over in Dubai working with Joshua. And I thought that was interesting because you've got a guy who's the heir apparent, the bronze medalist, he's got his coach. Surely the most important person to have over in Dubai is Robert Garcia. There's other people who help, there's Jody Clayton, whoever else is helping these guys. Garcia is the most important person to be there. So, but no, the assistant coach is over with Joshua. And I thought that was interesting. And then our mate, the Gad, he's made a comment earlier saying there's been friction in the camp. But what he's done, because he doesn't want to lose any access, he says, but that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. But then last night, and I know I'm going on, this is my last one. The 4th reason why it's clear that Robert Garcia has had no influence on this camp and things haven't gone well. Spencer Oliver said something last night that absolutely blew me away. And again, nobody's mentioned it. He said, I'm in a WhatsApp group with Anthony Joshua, and he's asking everybody who's in this elite WhatsApp group what they think about the fight. Now, as a coach, as a head coach, there was one voice in the corner, mate, and there was one voice in camp in terms of strategy, and that was mine. If you thought it was wrong, get another coach. When I used to hear people talking to fighters saying, what you need to do is you need to catch him with a left hook, and just say, out. It's nothing to do with you. You don't know anything about this. I'm the coach. I'll work on the strategy. So how fragile is Anthony Joshua that is in a WhatsApp group and he's getting all these opinions, and people talk shite, saying he's like a sponge, he's AJ, he likes to get everybody's opinions, like a sponge, he's like a sponge.
Have an overload in his head, it might have been overload.
How can you well, he's not much of a sponge because everything he's been taught over the years and told, none of it's rubbed off, has it, in terms of his ring craft. So he's not that much of a sponge, or his brain can't get his body to manifest the instructions. And I'm not criticizing him, by the way. I know he's a gold medalist, world champion. But so you're asking Spencer Oliver on fight week in a WhatsApp group how he thinks you should fight. And then Spencer Oliver not realizing how absolutely ridiculous the whole thing sounds and how offensive that is to a head coach. Spencer's going, oh, it's great.
Jumping in with his 2 pence worth.
I mean, who else have we got in the WhatsApp group? Is the guy on the WhatsApp group?
Let me just tell you something here, right? Do you know why Spencer Oliver in with jug ears? You know why he's up Joshua's starfish, isn't that right, Spencer? It's because they went to the same Finchley, ABC, whatever, back in the day. Plus, he'd love to train him as well because he's local, isn't he? He'd love to get his hands on him money, get that little 10% or 5%. So they play the game, don't they? Even though they know it's wrong. Could you imagine Peter Fury training Joshua and him texting Joshua in a WhatsApp group and then bragging about it? What do you think could be happening now?
Yeah, Huey Fury, yeah. Oh, by the way,
what are you doing in WhatsApp groups with my fighter? Maybe one of them. F off.
Yeah.
F off.
Out. Yeah. Don't message my fighter. Get it. So you're gonna have 3 people.
Garcia's American, he's not English.
Yeah, and I've never
take piss in it.
Yeah, I've never heard anything as ridiculous in my life. So you've got the head coach not doing the pads, pads are everything. The head coach not doing the pads. You've got friction in the camp. You've got the assistant coach not with his main fighter, but over with Joshua. You've got all these other people around him. And then you've got Spencer Oliver and his mates in a WhatsApp group advising Anthony Joshua on the week of the biggest fight of his career. Wow, I'm absolutely staggered by this. And Spencer Oliver, who's a good fighter, and I respect him, he was saying that like it was a good thing. And I'm sat there thinking, like you mentioned, Peter Fury.
Sniffing around for crumbs, they're sniffing around for crumbs and crusts.
It was boiling my piss. I'm thinking, fighters texting my fighter, other people texting my fighter, telling him how he should approach a fight on fight week. A shame on Joshua, shame on them all. So back to the fight. I think for me, there's something so fragile about Anthony Joshua that he needs to do that he needs to set up this group to get as many opinions as you can. The one opinion that matters is the head coach. And if you don't trust the head coach, you need to get rid of him and go with somebody else.
No, has he been doing this all the way through his career? Because if you're trained by McCracken, who was he listening to? Because everybody's an expert, aren't they? Where were they all when they were amateur? And nobody there, were they? They're on the McCracken, weren't they? Where were all these people then? Now all of a sudden, you heard him reeling off all names, all sparring partners. Who has 30 sparring partners?
Never heard as much nonsense.
All that his team, all leechers in team woodpeckers, pecking away at all his money. Peck, 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 peck. They want feeding, watering, housing. They want driving about. They want clothing.
Yeah.
Gossers.
Leeches, they're fucking parasites, and that's exactly what they are. It's like they're never going to be an original version of themselves. They're just going to be linked anyway to Anthony Joshua. I could have been linked to some pretty big fighters over the years, and I said, no, I want to be my own man. That's how I work, and that's how I do things. And I'm happy with that. And listen, but I couldn't believe it. I know I'm back on the same thing. Anthony Joshua's in a WhatsApp group asking people's opinions this week. You couldn't fucking make this up, could you?
No. You couldn't make it up, but it's happened, and they're asking him what his game plan is and all this, and he's just saying he's ready. That doesn't seem like somebody that's, usually the heavyweight boxers, they go, I'm going to gut him like a fish. When I let this go, it's KO. We get all that, don't they? And he's like, oh, I'm ready. What?
I like to study.
Nappy.
I like to study not just body language, but verbals. And all I've heard from Joshua is hope, maybe, think. It's all those kind of like words that are not confident words. Listen, do I think he'll perform? I think he'll do better than he did in the last fight. Do I think it's going to be enough? I've kind of fallen down now, and I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Usyk hurt early. That wouldn't be the biggest surprise in the world, by maybe a body shot or something. That wouldn't shock me. But this is a guy, if you are ultra confident and you have that Nigel Benn mindset, when it gets rough, you can deal with it. But if you have such a fragile mindset that you're asking the opinion of the milkman how he thinks you should approach this fight, and anybody else whatsoever, as soon as it gets difficult for Joshua, he's just going to cave in. I mean, all the signs have been there, haven't they, over the years, when he was in trouble against Ruiz and he was looking at McCracken and he was what punch ever to throw now, and what is he going to do next? And it was like, it was hard to watch, was that, for someone who was an unbeaten world champion and the pinnacle of his sport. When I watched the Ruiz Joshua fight, I found it really hard to watch it. It was like, wow, this is uncomfortable viewing for a guy. And then we saw him against Ruiz in the second fight. It was grab, jab. And there's just something so fragile about this man. I can't see him beating Usyk because as soon as it gets tough, he's just mentally just going to implode. and it's such a shame. It's one of those things, mate, isn't it? Usyk's such a clever guy. Is a strategist. I've also seen little bits like he's been warming up on the pads as Joshua, and you can see him looking for that long right uppercut, that big left hook underneath. That might work against a shorter guy, but against a southpaw who spins off to his right, difficult shot. And even though they were both orthodox, if he's trying that big right uppercut, Joshua, Usyk's just going to beat him straight down the pipe. The straight shot always beats the signal shot every time. I always think of when Buster Douglas threw that big right uppercut against Evander Holyfield, and Holyfield just dropped back the shoulder and threw that right hand down the middle and nailed him. And even though they're both orthodox, if Joshua is loaded up on that right uppercut, he's going to pay for throwing that shot. Can't see it. Again, you throw left up to the body against a southpaw, unless you got the speed of a Ryan Garcia against Luke Campbell, you better time that shot, because you're gonna get caught with a right hook or a little screw left. And I can't see anything that Joshua's gonna do that's gonna outthink Usyk. And I think he might get stopped this time.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, then we'll get trolled again, won't we?
Who cares, man? Who cares?
It's funny. I love it.
The Gad.
Brilliant.
The Gad is he's got his own show on TalkSport, and he's strong arming people now. The Gad. You seen strong arming juggies yesterday?
Yeah, almost threw Spencer Oliver over the table. He's getting brave as the Gad, isn't he? The one thing I've said this to you before, I can't dislike him at all. I find him hugely entertaining. I don't know if it's because you've called him the Gad or just because he's entertaining. I think it's a mixture of both, and he was really loving it, wasn't it, when he called the Ben and Eubank fight, and he was like having his moment with his cigarette and his glass of whatever it was. And the Gad has just become this huge caricature in boxing that is hilarious. And I personally think he's too funny and too entertaining to dislike. And I will watch him. But intelligent guy, clever guy. He knows boxing in terms of statistics and figures and how the politics of it work and all that kind of stuff. I don't think he knows boxing. I really don't. But hey, listen, there's been lesser men than the Gad have their own platform, hasn't there?
Listen, mate, we know where he's going to end up, the Gad, don't we? 8 foot by 9 foot cell with bars on
a special
basic
wing
regime in the scrubs. You know, all this money flying around in boxing, and we've got Mr. Bean saying boxing's booming and that, Julian. Do you believe him? Do you think boxing might be struggling a little bit?
I think boxing's booming in the upper bracket of the real high earners and the well-known fighters and the commercial fighters. They're getting paid massive amounts of money. Like Chisora was talking about the heavyweights the other day. The heavyweights are getting paid crazy money. Even the guys who can't fight, they're getting massive money. So boxing's booming for them. Boxing's not booming for the local promoters, amateur and pro. Obviously, amateurs don't promote, but the local shows, it's not booming. The sports centres are empty. The fighters are fighting for nothing, having to sell tickets, and it's definitely not booming at any kind of basic level. You know, you don't see that many good central area fights now, do you? You don't get the big English title fights that we used to get. So it's a little bit like the rich and the poor, isn't it? The rich, life's great for them, even though we're going through hardships now, and we're going through, we're going to be hitting a recession, cost of living. That's never going to impact the really super rich, is it? So life's great for them. Life's champagne and roses for them. But for your average man on the street, the guy who's working in a factory, or the young girl who's 18-year-old, 19-year-old who's working in a care home 50 hours a week, life's not great. And boxing's exactly the same. Life, imitates art. So it's booming for the guys who are living well. It's definitely not booming for your kid who's 3-0, 4-0, who can't sell tickets and he's having to work as a night watchman just to make a few quid.
All right. Well, I'm going to throw some names at you now. I want you to give me an answer. What next for them? You know, it'll either be retirement, or they'll stay retired, or they'll come back, or they'll fight so and so. So I'll throw some names at you. Yeah. Kell Brook.
Retirement.
Tyson Fury.
He'll wait for the heavyweight picture to clean itself up, and he'll come back. He doesn't want to be other people out there calling themselves 3-time heavyweight champions of the world. So he's going to come back, and he'll smash and grab all the jewelry in one go instead of having to pick it apart. He'll be back. Why not? Clever guy.
Well, he's like, all other belts were on loan anyway, weren't they? All of them.
Yeah, he's the best heavyweight in the world. He's just sitting quietly until it's his time.
Okay. Dylan White.
He'll get beat in some kind of crossroads fight, and then we probably won't hear from him again.
Yeah, you think? Yeah,
yeah, I think he's a very overrated fighter, and I always have done. He's brave. He'll have a fight, and he will have a rumble, and he's entertaining. But I've never thought it was that great, and I think there's a good few fighters out there who'll beat Dillian White, and he won't do a Chisora and be that kind of high-level opponent. Dillian White will get out of sport.
Okay, Derek Chisora, what next for him?
Chisora will get another big fight. He'll get beat, and then he'll have another big fight, and he'll either get beat or win, and he'll probably hang around for about 5 or 6 more big fights. And eventually what happens is, while you're in the up and down thrillers, even if you're losing, you value for money. But at some point, someone's going to iron him out in about 3 rounds, and then he'll go nowhere then.
You'll know it's
he'll earn a lot of money. But good luck to him. He's entertaining.
Okay, Daniel Dubois.
Oh, he'll absolutely get exposed again. Zero doubt about that. I don't rate it that highly. Very, very limited. Very easy to hit. Poor stamina reserves. He'll take someone half decent to beat him, by the way. He's not going to get beaten by, a bottom, someone outside the 15. But Dubois will get exposed badly again.
Yeah. Katie Taylor.
She's at that age, isn't she? She'll probably have 1 or 2 more fights. Hopefully she wins them and goes out on top. I'd like to see her go out on top. She's absolutely the best female boxer of all time.
You think?
Yeah, she's brilliant, mate. She's not what she was. She's not even what she was 4 years ago. But when I first saw her, I've never seen a female boxer put combinations together like she does. The way she rattles those 3s and 4s in rapid fire. When I first saw her, I was blown away. But she's not what she was, but she was still brilliant against Serrano. And I don't see how we can knock her, because she's got massive accomplishments. And people, you can call yourself the greatest women of all time in Clarissa Shields, but Katie Taylor is undisputed the best female fighter who's ever lived.
You reckon, yeah? I thought it'd be Louise Riker.
I think Katie Taylor. I think she's, as I say, she's on the slide, but while she's now earning that big money and has that bigger platform, she's going to hopefully go for 2 or 3 more times. But I think she's brilliant, mate.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything you want to say, Julian, before we go? We need to give him a shout out, don't we? Adam Butterworth, is it? Richard's company, Factory Fixers.
That's right.
The backing Adam Butterworth to make his MMA debut. So good luck.
That's a tough sport. Good luck, Adam. That's a really tough sport.
Well done, Richard, for throwing your money about. So you might be cutting back on cigars.
Richard's really good. Yeah, good luck. Good for Richard, because there's not a lot of fighters who get sponsorship, and those who do get pittance. And I think Richard's the kind of guy, as long as Adam's working hard and training hard, he won't be sponsoring him because he thinks he's going to have massive success. He'll be sponsoring him
as an
because
interest.
And as an interest, because he's working hard. And just one final thing. I went to Morrison's yesterday, and as I was coming out, I bumped into Alan McIver. Alan McIver was a good amateur who I used to train as a kid, and Keith Tate used to train him. His brother Mally McIver was a GB coach. He was a good amateur and pro as well. And it was just interesting. I was chatting to him, and it goes back to what we say. And I was talking about the fight. Was he watching the fight, Alan? And just as quick plug for Alan. Alan had about 80, 90 amateur fights, and he beat Gavin Smith, who was the reigning ABA champion at lightweight. So that gives you a bit of an idea how good Alan was to beat a reigning ABA champion in the next round of the ABAs the year after. So Alan, nice kid, and I says, "How you doing?" "Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, watching the fight this weekend." He went, "I'll probably watch." And he just says, "Boxing's not what it was, Jules, is it?" And we were talking about the days when Alan used to just turn up and fight anybody, and massive amateur fights, like I said. And he says, you know, we've all heard this before, but he says, nobody will fight each other. He says, they're all avoiding each other. They're all obsessed in the unbeaten record. And he says, it's such a shame. And he's younger than me, but he kind of reeled off some of the fights from maybe the 90s and the noughts. And I just thought it was interesting because you said boxing's booming. You know, you quoted Adam Smith saying boxing is booming. But yet you talk to a guy who knows boxing, who's been a boxer, who's been around it, who's beat ABA champions in his time. And you can't fool everybody all the time, can you? I just thought it was interesting to bump into a kid, have a nice chat to a kid I used to coach, who just says it as it is. And it was like, I'm not that interested in it, Jules, because I'll watch the big fights, but I'm just not as interested in it as I used to. And I thought that was a good comment from somebody of that, you know, that generation, not somebody who's 60 or 50 like me. And I thought, yeah, that for me is the general feeling of most people, that we love boxing, we're addicted to boxing, but we don't follow it religiously like we used to, because it's something's been detracted from it. Having said that, I'll be giving me 26 quid to Sky tomorrow, mate, and paying to watch the fight. 27 quid and paying to watch the fight, because as I've just said, we're addicted. But what I won't be doing is watching the fight 15 times like I used to watch Holmes and Norton and those kind of fights, mate. But finally, good luck to everybody who's fighting tomorrow night. Good luck to AJ. Good luck to Joshua. And most important thing, mate, nobody gets hurt. Nobody enjoys the fight.
I agree. Well, listen, thanks for coming on, Julian. It's been a pleasure. Hope you're well. Have a great weekend.
Good to see you. Good to see you back at, what are you now? Welterweight now, mate.
£1 below, 10-6.
Good to see you back at welterweight now, mate. You'll be, what are you aiming for?
12.
12.
It was set at 12, wasn't it, my band, but I went, you know, 30, £43 to Farden, and it was sending out wrong signals to my brain. I'm not eating. And all that. Anyway, so it looks like it's all coming to an end, just in my scan.
Good, just listen to the people and, yeah, listen to the people, and you know, the people like Peter and your mate who's giving you those fab protein drinks and stuff. Yeah, looking after you. So
you've done well for me, Scott, hasn't he?
Scott's done absolutely fabulous, mate. Very rarely people will give you something for nothing, but more importantly, like someone like Peter, what's Peter's giving? He's giving his time, mate, and he's so selfish with his time. So yeah,
you don't like it being wasted.
Okay. No, exactly, mate. Yeah, I won't be on the wrong end of him.
He's a soft, cuddly teddy. I get away with murder because I'm cheeky, Anna, but listen, he's not to be messed with. Well, listen, you take care.
Okay, mate.
Have a good weekend and give Kelsey my best.
Will too. Thanks, pal.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Russell.
Right. Well, that was Julian McGowan. I enjoyed that. About 10 seconds left. So everybody have a great weekend. Don't forget to watch the boxing. If you've got to pay for it, well, let's pay for it, innit? Better than a stream, innit? But okay. Peace out.